I can't take this anymore. Tonight's film was Sinbad by the Japanese Shinpei Miyashita, made as a way to celebrate 40 years of the legendary Nippon Animation Company. The character designer and the animation director was Yoshiharu Sato, which, for the more hardcore Studio Ghibli fans out there, you might remember this name for being the one who worked on My Neighbor Totoro. That explains why the film is so desperate, and I do mean desperate, to look like a glorious homage to early years Hayao Miyazaki, which is a nice way to say it's kind of a complete ripoff of Laputa Castle in the Sky, which was in itself a remake of Future Boy Conan from the 1970s, also by Miyazaki. So yes, even though the title of this picture is Sinbad, and it's supposed to be about, well, the famous fictional character of Sinbad, as presented here, some sort of young lad with a dream of one day becoming the king of sailors. This really is just the story of Future Boy Conan and Castle in the Sky, to the point that we even have the mysterious girl that appears out of nowhere in the life of our main character with a mysterious gemstone MacGuffin device that the bad guys are after, and there is this old journey to find the lost land of such and such. And it's not good. Not even if you consider it a homage rather than a ripoff, because I'm sure that was the intention, I can tell, but the film is so utterly dull. Aside from having a bright color palette and aesthetics that recall the 1970s style of animation associated with the then Hayao Miyazaki's repertoire. And if you watched Future Boy Conan, which is from that period, you would immediately understand what I'm talking about. But the point is, it is rather charming to look at, and it is immediately appealing. But it doesn't save this film from being a really boring, cluttered train wreck that struggles every step of the way to keep up some sort of pacing, minuscule sense of pacing, only to lead us to a pretty rushed conclusion where the bad guy is basically done in by some random Deus Ex Machina sandstorm. He wasn't even present during the climax of the story. And there isn't much else to talk about. I mean, there is a completely random homage to the creatures of Ray Harryhausen and the original Sinbad film from the 1950s. Or was it the 60s? Anyway, that Sinbad, the one that everybody usually references. And I say it's a random homage because it fits as a tribute, but it's a monster that comes out of nowhere. It has no bearing with the plot, and it doesn't really add anything to it at all. It's just there for the sake of being there. Moving on. And the characters are really tired, retraced tropes of, again, characters you've seen already in classic and much more beloved Miyazaki's films. And the backstories of these characters are delivered in the most awkward and clunky way possible, either by way of a throwaway line or an overly explained, overly prolonged backstory that takes too long, and it still doesn't feel right. For example, there is the backstory of the female protagonist, which starts off well enough, she explaining what she went through to both Sinbad, young Sinbad, and the crew, the sailor crew is part of, which they were all way too eager to help the girl out, even though they really did not have any reason in the world to do so. And that's another problem, because they clearly went for the manly side characters, men that with a heart of gold that help everyone out because they are very good guys that you always see in Miyazaki's films, but it doesn't feel earned in this one. It definitely feels like it's an archetype that was forced in because Miyazaki did it. Yeah, you could basically justify the existence of this film with this sentence, because Miyazaki. Anyway, about that backstory I was about to talk about. Yeah, so she starts off explaining the backstory, then we cut to the main villain that was listening to her talking about her backstory through his magical bubbles. Don't ask, don't question it. And then he starts to explain, or to continue the explanation of said backstory. And he's telling that to no one in particular, just to himself. So stupid. And at times it feels like it's not even trying to tell a story, or a good story, or its own story for that matter. It never goes beyond the passionate homage, and it never really evolves into its own creature, not even with the name of Sinbad on it, splattered on it, if you will. And if it weren't for the good animation, well, it's not really a high-budget animation, but that's a good-looking one nonetheless, I would chuck this whole enterprise off as just lazy. I'm so tired. This film destroyed me. Oh, it is so dull to sit through. At the end of the day, that's the greatest criticisms I can give it. It's boring. You've seen it before, done much better. So that's my, I guess, opinions, first impressions about Sinbad, which is Japanese for Sinbad. Nice visual throwback, but overall, it's kind of a waste of time. Well, that was the last film in the main competition for this festival. Although tomorrow night it's the last day, and they have Anomalisa in program. Which is good, because I did not manage to actually watch Anomalisa when it first came out some time ago. So that's going to be interesting for me to find out what the hype is all about for this one. Anyway, my hair is a complete mess. I'll see you soon. Sinbad the Sailor. Yeah.